Today's video is all about my hands-on time with Behemoth, and in an effort to cover everything, towards the end of the video is a very fast Q&A. Now we need to keep in mind that Behemoth is perhaps 4 to 6 months out, and it's coming to multiple VR systems, and I've only experienced a vertical slice demo on the PlayStation VR2. In terms of platforms, it's coming to PC, Quest 3, and unbelievably Quest 2, which to be honest does scare me a little bit after seeing how beautiful this game actually looks, but in a discussion with the developer, he told me nothing will be missing in the Quest 2 version. All the physics and interactions will be there, which is confirming regardless of what system you play it on, the gameplay experience will be the same. But at this point, seeing is believing, especially with high-end games getting the Quest 2 treatment. I already know after playing Saints and Sinners on PSVR2 and PCVR, these platforms will deliver a top-tier visual VR experience, and I reckon the Quest 3 will be surprisingly good, especially after experiencing the enhanced update for Saints and Sinners. Now with all that out of the way, here is my first impressions of Behemoth, which is coming fall of 2024 and is going to be priced $39.99 US. For PSVR2 owners, you'll be pleased that Behemoth is running at 90 FPS using eye tracking and dynamic foveated rendering, and it looked absolutely gorgeous. Also, parts of the gameplay you're seeing here might actually be in the game at some point, but this isn't the beginning of the game, and to avoid spoilers, most of this is just parts of the game put together and it's not all connected. So in terms of what you see today as it is, you may never see again. Behemoth itself is a single player action survival game with a heavy emphasis on combat and weapon interaction. The weapons feel solid and have a realistic weight about them, and the heavier the weapon is, the more stamina you have to use to wield it. I tested this using a long sword with both hands and 2 single-handed swords, and they both took a lot more stamina in a fight. There's also axes and there's shields that can get smashed to bits, and a bow and arrow, and to summarise, they do all feel great, which isn't really a surprise since Saints and Sinners weapons do feel good, but your character in Saints and Sinners is malnourished, meaning everything just feels so bloody heavy to use. But what I'm pleased to say in Behemoth, that isn't the case, and you do feel a really strong warrior. And that's especially true when you use your special ability, which is kind of like an anger strength ability, and anything you do within this time period just makes you much more powerful. When you engage this mode, you can punch heads off, cut people in half, punch through walls. Say you use a bow and fire an arrow under the influence of the rage, you could potentially take their head clean off. You get the idea. The real standout part of this game for me was actually the hook shot. Not only can you hook shot your way up to different areas, you can also descend to hard to reach areas because it acts like a miniature winch system on your wrist. You can also disengage the hook shot, and that leaves the rope behind for you to climb later on. And you can also use it to grab enemies and pull them over. I have a feeling the hook shot currently isn't fully realised yet, and I don't think they're done with ideas for it. The enemies I came across so far in the demo have 3 varieties. There's the standard warrior, but they do appear to be different in terms of armor and look, and also weaponry. A little bit more on combat, you can block and parry. Blocking is as straightforward as you would expect, but the parry system currently, while satisfying if you pull it off, is a bit more hit and miss than I would like. But I've only had a limited time with the game, and it could simply be a case of getting good. You will be able to win fights without parrying, of course, simply by chipping away at the opponent's health, which will take longer, and at the end of this they end up in like a staggered state. From here you can experiment in different ways of ending their life, and yes, the stabbing is as satisfying as Saints and Sinners. You have the taller mid-game bosses which do put up a really good fight, and then finally the Behemoth itself, which in this demo today you will not see the end result of taking him down, and that is because they just want to avoid spoilers. Going back to the strength ability, you can use it to interact with parts of the world which are clearly indicated by, say, bits of wood behind them like spikes and trees. If you engage your strength ability and fire your hookshot, you can rip the tree out the ground and smash your opponents with it. And actually in my demo I end up killing myself with the tree. Now the main weapon in the game is called the Hero Sword. I can't really remember when you come across this weapon, but it is upgradable and it's one of the weapons you can't lose, but you can at any time pick up any other weapon and use it as you want. At the end of the demo we did get to kill the Behemoth, but I don't think we're allowed to really go into details about the final battle, but you will need the hook shot to reveal protected areas, and then you need to scale the Behemoth and stab them, very similar to Shadow of the Colossus, which I absolutely loved. And climbing the Behemoth also takes stamina, especially when he's moving around. So for those of you like me who are fans of Shadow of the Colossus, you definitely get the vibe here, and I'm personally looking forward to seeing all the rest of the Behemoths in the game. To summarise, if Behemoth lives up to the hype of the original cinematic trailer, which we've been watching for quite some time, yes it did. But there is so much more I need to see. For me, it's all about the behemoths. They will take the centre stage. I very much enjoyed the combat leading up to the eventual final face-off, but it also left me with more questions. How many behemoths are there in the game? What are the puzzle elements mentioned in my press kit, and how long will the overall game be? Ultimately though, it left me wanting more, and I guess that was the plan all along.
I'll put you in the ground!
So the first question is the game open world, level based with open environments, or is it linear? That's very hard to answer at the moment because the vertical slice demo was basically to funnel players from start to an end, because a lot of people doing this demo might not have been content creators, or VR content creators should I say, and they were press and they might not have played as much VR as other people. Are there different variations of behemoths, just one, or are there other bosses? Now they've told me there is more than the 2 that you have seen so far. That's all I can say. There are many questions about the graphics currently, but I'm more interested in performance. Does the game run at a smooth frame rate and does it use reprojection? As I said in the video, yes, it runs at 90 FPS native and it uses eye tracking and dynamic favorited rendering. So I'm assuming this question is pointed from a PSVR2 perspective. Are the graphics on par with Saints and Sinners? I hope the graphics are not held back by Quest 2. From what I've played so far, the graphics look top notch. I'm very impressed with the graphics. Did you manage to catch an arrow and shoot it back like in the trailer? No, I didn't. I didn't know you could do that, to be honest. Any indication of how much of a downgrade the Quest version will be related to this? Will the Quest 3 version look better than the Quest 2 version? I wish I could answer that. I've only had access to the PSVR2 version and a go on the PCVR version, so I haven't seen any Quest footage yet. How intuitive is the grapple mechanic and what can you do with it? Now, I have already talked about this earlier in the video, but basically it's like a winch on your hand. It's not a simple case of firing it and it automatically propelling you forward. You have to press a button for it to basically pull the rope in, and then it can like catapult you around. But at the same time, you can fire it and it will leave a rope and you can climb the rope or let go of the rope, or even use the winch system to descend to other platforms. Did you face motion sickness? Well, just to let you know, I actually don't get motion sickness in VR, but do I think it'd be an issue? It might be an issue in this game because the developers basically said the safety wheels are off. Sure, you're going to have the normal comfort settings you get like vignettes and click turning, but they are going all out to make a game that is fully immersive, and there's basically going to be full locomotion. I fully expect at some point to be firing that grapple hook and be swinging off a behemoth. Is it like Shadow of the Colossus, i.e. can you climb a behemoth? Is there more than one behemoth? Yes, you can climb the behemoth. Yes, it felt like Shadow of the Colossus where I had to basically get my sword in my hand and make that stab. And yes, there is more than 2 behemoths. What will the link for the game be, and is there any planned DLC for the future? I cannot comment on that at this time. Will it have mod support? Well, that's interesting because recently I made a video on Saints and Sinners using some mods, using something called the God Phone. I'll link that video in the description. So who knows? Is your character customizable? In a very loose sense, like similar to Saints and Sinners, you can pick your skin color and you can pick your different sized arms as well, which I was very excited for with the developers because I said I actually want quite big arms. It feels like my arms in the game. Do you choose when to release the rage mode type thing? Yes, basically you press 2 buttons at the same time and that engages rage mode for a set amount of time. How do you feel about the combat and scale? Curious specifically about the combat, considering how well they did the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Yeah, so the combat was excellent. As I said earlier in the video, basically everything has weight, and unlike Saints and Sinners, you're not malnourished. That's the character in Saints and Sinners is very weak, so everything feels heavy, and that's why you run out of stamina so fast. I think even swinging a 2-handed axe in Saints and Sinners will basically make you out of breath, and that isn't the case with this game. There is a stamina bar, and it does go down depending on what you're using, for example, but you are much stronger in this game. Will there be any sort of co-op, either story mode or wave-based? I can't answer about co-op. I don't think there will be co-op. It is a story. When it comes to wave-based, there is like a dungeon mode where you do go through waves of enemies and you get access to these tables with lots of different weapons on them, and you need to collect herbs to heal yourself during these battles. Do you have a companion in the game? Not currently. And I know what you're getting at, like, do you have a dog like Arizona, for example, or Hellsweeper? At the moment, no. And I honestly don't think that will happen. Did you play long enough to give a full review or just a first impressions? Absolutely just first impressions. A review of this game would take me days. Is there any magic or spells? I haven't come across any currently. Any idea on price? Yes, the game is priced at $39.99 US. And that's all I've got time for today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.